Have you ever pulled back from a man, stopped texting, calling, or checking in, and wondered what really happens next? Not just on the surface, but deep inside his mind. See, silence isn't just the absence of noise. It's power. It's presence. And when a woman chooses silence, it speaks volumes in ways words never could. Right now, he might think he has the upper hand. Maybe he's used to you always reaching out first, checking in, or trying to make things right. But suddenly, you go quiet. And that shift, that's when everything starts to change. What you're about to discover in this video is the uncomfortable truth about how most men actually react when a woman stops chasing. And it's not what he shows you on the outside. This isn't a game. This isn't manipulation. This is you reclaiming your energy, you pulling your value back into your hands. And trust me, when you go silent, a man's brain starts to race. Questions come up that he's never had to ask before. Did I lose her? Why hasn't she reached out? Is she done with me? And that panic, that's the beginning of the power shift. Whether you're in a situationship, post-breakup, or trying to take your power back, this moment of silence is not the end, it's the trigger. And how he responds to your silence says everything about who he is, and whether he's truly worth your time. Stay with me, because once you understand what your silence does to him, you'll never chase again. The moment you stop contacting him, the countdown begins, but not in the way you might think. See, within the first 24 hours of your silence, most men don't immediately panic. In fact, a lot of them don't even register your absence at first. They assume it's a fluke. Maybe you're busy. Maybe you're just having a mood. In his mind, you'll be back, just like always. And that's the first mistake he makes. This initial calm is often wrapped in ego. He tells himself, she'll reach out. She always does. But what he doesn't realize yet is that this time, something's changed. You didn't just get quiet, you disconnected. And that quiet starts to stretch. An hour goes by, then 3, then it's night, and there's still nothing from you. No text, no call, no Instagram story that might be coincidentally for him to see. Just silence. By the time evening hits, his certainty begins to fade. His thoughts, once confident and casual, start to twist into curiosity. Is she mad? Did I miss something? Why hasn't she checked in? These questions echo louder than you ever could. That's because silence forces reflection, and reflection is uncomfortable for someone who's used to your energy filling the space. He may scroll through old messages, check your social media, or replay your last conversation in his mind, looking for clues. If he's emotionally immature, he'll distract himself. Games, scrolling, maybe texting someone else. But deep down, there's a flicker of anxiety now. You're not behaving the way he expected. And that unpredictability is powerful. The first 24 hours is when your absence plants the seed. He may not admit it, but he starts to feel your energy missing. He may try to brush it off, but the thought lingers. What if she's done for real this time? That subtle discomfort is your strength working behind the scenes. He doesn't know it yet, but this silence, it's the start of your shift from optional to unforgettable. By the second day of silence, the tone shifts. What started as minor curiosity now begins to snowball into confusion. He notices the quiet more than he expected to. The patterns he took for granted, your check-ins, your likes on his posts, the random thinking of you messages are all gone. And instead of feeling peace, he feels off, not panicked yet, but something's missing. This is when his ego steps in to do damage control. The male ego doesn't like losing attention, especially from someone who consistently gave it. So instead of facing the idea that you're pulling away, his mind starts crafting stories to protect itself. She's probably just trying to play a game. She'll break first. She's trying to make me miss her. Notice how none of these thoughts are based on real connection. They're based on control. The confusion is there, but his ego tries to mask it by convincing him that he's still in charge. By day 3, denial kicks in. He might distract himself with work, friends, or even other women. Not because he's over you, but because he's trying to feel like he still has options, like your silence isn't affecting him. But here's the twist. It is. More than he admits. Even as he pretends not to care, he's checking your social media. He's replaying old messages. He might even type something out to you and delete it before hitting send. The urge to reach out grows stronger by the hour, but his pride holds him back. Day 4 is usually when irritation sets in. He starts feeling frustrated, even angry, not at you necessarily, but at the fact that you've broken the unspoken pattern. He can't figure out why it's bothering him so much. After all, he thought he didn't care, right? But that's the thing. If he truly didn't care, your silence wouldn't be echoing so loudly in his head. Now it's not just about hearing from you. It's about getting back control of the situation. By day 5, the inner battle is real. One part of him wants to reach out, test the waters, maybe send a casual message like, "Hey, just checking in." But the other part, the ego, warns him not to give you the satisfaction. That pride can be his greatest weakness. Because while he's caught in that push-pull, wondering what to do, you're gaining emotional distance. You're growing stronger. You're shifting the dynamic. The silence by now isn't just confusing, it's unsettling. He's unsure if you're done, if you've moved on, or if you're testing him. And in that uncertainty, he starts to realize just how much he may have underestimated your absence. What he thought was temporary is starting to feel permanent. And that's when denial begins to crack. You're not the woman he thought would wait around. You're not begging. You're not explaining. You're gone. And that's a reality his ego was never ready to face. At some point between day 5 and day 7, something clicks. The confusion, denial, and ego-driven rationalizations begin to fade and reality starts to hit. This isn't a game. You're not just busy. You didn't forget to respond. You're gone. And he can feel it. Not just your voice or your presence, but your energy. The space you used to fill so effortlessly now feels empty. And it's in this silence that he finally begins to notice you're not coming back in the way he expected. What makes this stage so powerful is that it's often the first moment he's forced to truly reflect. Until now, he's been reacting, defending his pride, dismissing your silence, distracting himself. But now, he starts to look at his phone, not to distract himself, but hoping there's something from you. He opens old text threads, rereads past conversations, listens to a voice note you sent weeks ago. He's not just scrolling anymore. He's searching for meaning, for signs, for connection. This is when he starts remembering things he never paid attention to before. The way you always checked in when no one else did. The emotional labor you carried without asking for credit. The loyalty, the softness, the way you made him feel seen, even when he didn't deserve it. But here's the thing. Now that it's gone, he realizes he mistook your presence for permanence. He thought you'd always be there. He thought no matter how distant he became, you'd find a way to bridge the gap. But you didn't. And that hits different. This awareness doesn't always come with maturity though. Some men panic when they notice you're gone. Not because they're ready to fix things, but because they hate losing control. They may suddenly try to reinsert themselves in your life. But don't be fooled. Some will reach out just to see if you'll respond. Just to prove they still have access. Not all returns are rooted in love. Some are driven by ego, and this is when discernment becomes your greatest tool. But if he's emotionally aware, even just a little, this is when regret starts to brew. He may not say it out loud, but he's asking himself the hard questions. Why did I take her for granted? Why didn't I try harder? What if she moved on? These aren't comfortable thoughts for a man who once assumed your love was guaranteed. And now he's not just missing you, he's starting to value you. That's the difference. When he starts to notice you're gone, he doesn't just miss the messages or the attention. He misses who he was when he had access to your energy. And now that it's gone, he's left with himself, and the silence is louder than he ever imagined. That's when it gets real. That's when the shift happens. And that's when your power becomes undeniable. Now that he's fully aware of your absence, the question becomes unavoidable. Will he reach out or stay silent? This is the emotional fork in the road where everything changes. And the truth is, what he does next depends entirely on the man he is, not the man he pretended to be. By this point, he's felt the silence. It's no longer something he brushes off. It's personal. It's unsettling. The attention he once took for granted is gone, and with it, his illusion of control. He may have played it cool at first, but now the reality is sitting in his chest like a weight. Your name is in his thoughts more than he wants to admit. And now he has two options. reach out, or let you go without ever seeing what might have been. For some men, reaching out feels like surrender. It bruises their pride to be the first one to text after days of silence, especially if they're used to women doing the chasing. His ego might whisper, "Don't break, let her come to you." But underneath that tough exterior is a rising panic. What if she doesn't? What if she's really done? That tension builds fast. This is when many men will test the waters, not with an emotional message, but with something casual. "Hey, how have you been?" or "Saw something that reminded me of you." It's low risk, low effort, but high intent. They're trying to gauge if they still have access to you, without fully putting their pride on the line. They want reassurance without vulnerability. But here's the twist: some men won't reach out at all. Not because they don't care, but because fear and pride paralyze them. They convince themselves that you're better off, that you're angry, that too much time has passed. Instead of risking rejection, they retreat further into silence. And sometimes that silence becomes permanent, not because they didn't feel something, but because they didn't know how to handle it. And that's where so many women get confused. If he cared, wouldn't he say something? Not always. Some men would rather lose you than lose their sense of control. Silence for them is a shield, a way to avoid accountability. They don't reach out, not because you weren't valuable, but because they're too emotionally unequipped to face what your silence revealed about them. But don't mistake inaction for indifference. Even if he doesn't reach out, your silence spoke. It reached him in ways your words never could. He felt it, he noticed, and now, whether he admits it or not, he knows he misread you. You weren't weak, you weren't waiting, you were done. The real question isn't whether he reaches out, it's whether it matters anymore. Because by the time he figures it out, you might not even care. This is the moment everything shifts. Not just for him, but for you. When you stop chasing, something powerful happens. The energy in the relationship dynamic resets. You're no longer trying to prove your worth, explain your heart, or earn a space in his life. You're not looking at your phone hoping for a message, overthinking every interaction, or tying your peace to his responses. That version of you is gone. And in her place is someone calm, centered, and completely detached from needing his validation. The most powerful kind of silence isn't the kind that's meant to punish. It's the kind that comes from clarity. You finally see that chasing someone who's uncertain about you is a form of self-abandonment. And the moment you choose you, the entire script flips. That energy he once felt from you, eager, present, consistent, is no longer being directed at him. And that vacuum, he feels it. Now your focus isn't on what he's doing, it's on what you're building. You're pouring into yourself. You're not wondering where you stand. You know your value, and that self-possession is what changes how he sees you. He's no longer dealing with the version of you who was always available. He's dealing with a woman who doesn't need to be chosen. That realization hits differently. For men who are used to being chased, this shift is jarring. Suddenly they can't predict you. They can't rely on the same old patterns. He may try to provoke a reaction, liking your posts, sending a vague message, popping up where he knows you'll see him. But when you don't bite, he starts questioning everything. Has she moved on? Did I lose her for good? And for once those answers aren't in his control. That's the true power shift. And here's the truth. Once you stop chasing, you stop negotiating for crumbs. You no longer entertain half efforts, late replies, or unclear intentions. You don't get excited over breadcrumbs. You're waiting for the loaf. This inner calm isn't about manipulation. It's about alignment. You're aligned with the version of you that doesn't settle. And trust me, that version, she's magnetic. This shift is what makes the difference between women who break the cycle and women who stay trapped in it. When you stop chasing, you create space for better love, for self-respect, for a relationship where you're not chasing someone who's running. You're walking away with your head high, your boundaries intact, and your dignity unshaken. And that's the version of you he never saw coming. Whether he realizes what he lost or not, doesn't even matter anymore. Because you finally remembered who you are. And that's the only validation you'll ever need. Distance changes everything, especially when it's not just physical, but emotional. And by now, whether he's admitted it to himself or not, he's processing the distance between you differently. In the beginning, it felt like space. A pause, a momentary break in contact. But now, that silence feels heavier. It has weight, it has meaning, And in his mind, it's no longer something temporary, it's becoming a threat. Men are wired differently when it comes to emotional connection. Many don't fully realize what someone means to them until that person creates distance. It's not because they don't care, it's because they associate closeness with comfort. And when that comfort is gone, they feel exposed. Suddenly, he doesn't have access to your thoughts. He doesn't know what you're feeling. He doesn't know if you still care. That uncertainty forces him into a state he rarely enters, vulnerability. At first, he might try to rationalize the distance. He'll say you're just going through a phase or she'll come back eventually. But as days stretch into a week or more, something deeper starts happening. He begins questioning not just you, but himself. Was he too cold? Did he ignore your needs? Did he underestimate what you brought to the table? That reflection stings, because now there's no comfort in knowing you're still emotionally accessible. The distance you've created is starting to feel real, permanent. This is when a man often experiences a surge of delayed emotions. The memories become more vivid. The things you said, the way you laughed, the energy you carried, it all starts playing back in his mind like a highlight reel. He doesn't just miss you, he starts realizing he misunderstood you, that you weren't being dramatic when you asked for consistency, that your silence isn't petty, it's protective. He didn't lose you because you gave up. He lost you because you finally understood your worth. Some men process distance by chasing, others by withdrawing even further. But either way, the distance forces them into a mirror. And not every man is ready to look, because now it's not about you being unavailable. It's about why you had to be. And when a man truly starts to process that, he feels two things: regret and powerlessness. Regret for not showing up when he had the chance, and powerlessness, because there's nothing he can do to undo the silence you created. Distance, when chosen by a woman who's done overgiving, is the loudest boundary a man will ever feel. And how he responds to that space, whether he grows from it or retreats into denial, reveals his true emotional capacity. But here's what matters most: by the time he fully processes what your distance means, you're already living in peace. You're not waiting. You're not wondering. You've evolved, and that's a distance he may never catch up to. Regret doesn't hit all at once. It creeps in slowly, almost quietly, until it becomes impossible to ignore. And for him, that moment eventually comes, the moment he realizes you're no longer his to call, to message, to casually check in on. You're no longer emotionally accessible. The door he thought would always be slightly open is now closed. That's when regret moves from a thought to a feeling. And it's heavy. In the beginning, he assumed you'd be back. Maybe not right away, but eventually he counted on your consistency, your kindness, the way you always made room for him even when he didn't deserve it. He assumed your love was unconditional, or at least that your patience was. But now, sitting in the silence you left behind, he sees the truth. You were never going to wait forever. And now that you're gone, really gone, he feels the emptiness of everything he didn't appreciate when he had the chance. Regret is different from missing someone. Missing is passive. It's "I wish she was here." Regret is active. It's "I should have done more. I should have treated her better." And that's exactly what begins to haunt him. He replays the times you reached out and he gave half-effort responses. He remembers the nights you wanted more connection and he brushed you off. The little things he thought didn't matter, they mattered everything to you. And now they're the very things that echo in his mind, over and over. It's in this space of realization that he begins to understand something life-changing. You weren't asking for too much. You were asking the wrong person. And if he was emotionally unavailable, passive or inconsistent, it's now painfully clear how costly that was. Because he didn't just lose your attention, he lost your loyalty, he lost your energy, he lost the woman who saw his potential before he even saw it in himself. Now he may try to come back. Many do, just not always for the right reasons. He might come back out of guilt, out of panic, out of the fear that you'll find someone else who recognizes your worth faster than he ever did. But you'll know the difference. Because real regret doesn't just say "I miss you," it says "I've changed." And unless his actions reflect growth, not just emotion, you'll see right through it. His regret is real, but your peace is more important. And the most powerful part, by the time he truly regrets losing you, you won't be the same woman he left behind. You'll be stronger, smarter, softer where it matters, and harder where it's needed. His regret might stay with him. Yours, you left it the moment you chose yourself. This is the part where it gets tough. Not because you're weak, but because you're human. When the silence starts working, and he finally reaches out, a part of you will want to respond. Not just out of emotion, but out of habit. That tiny voice might say, what if this time is different? What if he finally gets it? But here's what you need to remember. Strength isn't about denying your feelings. It's about honoring your boundaries, even when your feelings try to rewrite them. When he comes back, or even if he doesn't, the temptation to give in often comes from a desire for closure, connection, or comfort. You may miss him, miss how things used to be, or wonder if maybe now he's ready. But the real question isn't, does he want me now? It's, is he capable of showing up in a way that honors the woman I've become? Staying strong means not mistaking a moment of vulnerability for a reason to go backwards. It means trusting the silence you created. You didn't pull away for no reason. You did it to protect your peace, to regain your power, to stop abandoning yourself just to be chosen. Don't undo that growth for a single text, a phone call, or an apology that may not come with real change. This part of the journey is where most people break the no contact. Not because the other person changed, but because they got tired of the discomfort. But the discomfort is part of your healing. You're learning to sit with your emotions instead of being ruled by them. That's how real strength is built. So when the urge comes, and it will pause, breathe, ask yourself, does this serve the future I want, or is it just feeding an old version of me I've outgrown? Strength isn't loud. Sometimes it's just staying quiet one more day, even when your heart wants to speak, and in that silence you win. Walking away isn't a loss, it's a declaration. It says, I choose me, even if you don't. And while it may hurt in the beginning, walking away is how you win. Because the moment you stop begging to be seen, to be loved, to be prioritized, you step back into your power. You stop auditioning for someone who should have recognized your worth from the start. He may never fully understand what he had, or maybe one day he will, but by then, it'll be too late. Because the version of you who stayed too long, gave too much, and accepted too little, she's gone. She grew in the silence, she healed in the distance, and she found out that peace feels far better than chasing someone who doesn't know how to hold her heart. When you walk away, you're not saying, I don't care, you're saying, I care about myself more. That's not selfish, it's self-respect. And real love, real commitment, it never asks you to shrink, to wait endlessly, or to prove your worth to someone who keeps hesitating. The truth is, people only value what they're at risk of losing. And while some might finally see your worth when you leave, your decision can't be based on whether or not they come running back. Your decision has to be rooted in knowing that staying in a cycle of emotional breadcrumbs is not love. That's survival. And you were made for more than just surviving relationships. You were made to thrive in them. Walking away isn't the end of your story. It's the beginning of the chapter where you stop playing small and start choosing yourself unapologetically. The chapter where your standards rise, your energy becomes sacred, and you never again settle for someone who makes you question your value. So no, you didn't lose when you went silent. You didn't lose when you stopped chasing. You didn't lose when he didn't come back. You won the moment you chose to walk away with your dignity intact and your head held high, and that is the kind of power no one can take from you.